Hey guys, Scott back again with a new beer dissection video. What I have today, let me get right to it, from the closest brewery I've ever lived to, about a half a mile away. I haven't done a beer review or beer dissection from them for a very long time, but Moriches Brewing Company here in Santa Moriches, New York. It's called their Whatever Hoppins. Okay, I believe it's their double IPA, or the most recent double IPA, I should say, 8.6% alcohol. A buddy of mine was out here this weekend. I can't get out as often to grab these things, so I had sent him over. He picked up, I don't know, 6 or 8 Crowlers. Okay, remember Crowlers are about 32-ounce cans, different than Growler, which is that jug. So I'm not going to be reviewing all 6 of them. Actually, we consumed a few over the last few days here. So I have 1 or 2 left over. Maybe I'm going to do just this video, maybe one other video in recent in the upcoming days. So again, Whatever Hoppins, their double IPA, 8.6%. Like I said, they're roughly, I think, maybe a half a mile from the house direct. This is one of their tulip glasses here. I have reviewed other beers for them. I don't remember off the top of my head. There was a stout, a bunch of others. You would think since I live so close, I'd be reviewing their beers a lot more often. I just don't get the Crowlers a lot. Sometimes I have to get someone to get them for me. So it's just a little bit more difficult than just ordering beer to my door, and I can just kind of pull things out. But Moriches Field is close. I got West Hampton Beach Brewing Company very close. So I think I've done more reviews on their beers. So let's take a look at this one. All right. I'm just going to crack this bad boy open. Again, beer dissection from Moriches Brewing Company, Whatever Hoppins. Okay, so it's a double IPA. We'll see if it's leaning more towards the hazy IPA side. Is it leaning more towards just typical American IPA? With this, you usually 7.5. I'm a little rusty on my numbers, but 7.5 to about 10.5 is the range for double IPA. The bitterness units are usually somewhere around 70 to 100. I could be slightly off. Again, it's been a little over a year that I took my written Cicerone test, so some of the numbers may be a little hazy right now. But so we're going to be expecting some, good pronounced to maybe assertive bitterness here, being a double IPA. It is at the 8.6% alcohol, which is in the double IPA range also. Okay, so let's pour this bad boy out. Okay, I'm not going to try to fill it up completely here, so we have a little room. So let's take a look at this. Very nice. First of all, very nice, light tan, dense head. I got about 2-3 inches. I'm actually surprised. I usually even pour more aggressively these days. Looks like that's going to support itself pretty nicely. A nice light to medium amber color. Pretty clear. Okay. These days with the world of juicies and New England IPAs, a lot of times we're seeing a lot of haziness, the opaqueness. Even though I live locally here, I don't know the grist on this beer. A lot of IPAs will use oats and unmalted wheat. This doesn't have quite that look to it, so I'm thinking they're just using probably Pilsner or Pale Malt, 2-row, maybe some Crystal or some other, maybe biscuit malt or things like that. Something just to give it a little bit of that gold, because the gold kind of the color of it leans a little bit more towards like a West Coast IPA. And again, really, sometimes the West Coast IPAs will be more resiny, piney, and things like that, which again, I haven't even smelled this one yet. We're getting to that in a second. But very pretty looking beer. Maybe this slight bit of chill haze, but nothing to really worry about there, because it's brewed very fresh. Most breweries are going to have some degree of chill haze, but for the most part, it's very pretty looking beer. Okay. Again, that light to medium amber color, and even the head in the 2 minutes I've been talking already, it's sustaining itself pretty nicely. So let's take a sniff of the aroma. Okay, so you get this nice light fruit, maybe a slight grapefruit. I'm even getting some more malt forward on the aroma, like a bread crust, a light toast, even like a light like challah bread, like the challah bread crust that I'm getting on the nose. There's probably I'm getting a little bit, again, a little citrus, but even like melon, like kind of like cantaloupe. Maybe even, if you wanted to say honeydew, cantaloupe, melon-like, tropical fruit. Not strong like pineapple or mango, I don't get on this, at least my opinion, my subjective opinion on it. But all in all, very nice though, regardless of what adjective you want to give it or descriptor you want to give it. Again, melon, maybe a little white grape too. Again, I am totally blind on this. I don't know what hops they're used in this. Very nice. There could be a slight bit of pine. When I'm doing short sniffs, I'm getting a little bit of pine, so maybe one of the hops they're using is a Pacific West Coast hop. I don't know for certain. But again, guys, looks very nice. Even that head is persisting a little bit on the top of the beer. Let me just check the malt one more time. Yeah, it's still kind of like bread crust, challah bread, maybe light toast. Okay, not white bread or doughy like you get with West Coast and New England IPA. So right now this is kind of looking more like just a typical American IPA, double of course, and maybe even leaning a little bit towards West Coast side, but we'll see. That's, again, this is just my subjective take on it, but all in all, so far, the look of the beer, the aromas on the beer are very pleasant and pronounced. Sometimes I like to go back at it, give my nostrils kind of a reset. Sometimes you can put your hand, breathe into your elbow, kind of reset your nostrils a little bit to get the aroma. I almost get like, now that I went back to it, it's almost like, you had made fresh iced tea. Okay, and you smell it like, even something like just out of the bottle that you get, like you kind of get that, Maillard, slightly, you smell the malt character, toffee, light caramel type of aroma that you're getting on there too, which is really probably all we're interpreting is the malt character. Very nice, guys. All right, so let's take a swig of this. Cheers. Pretty high carbonated, which is nice, very crisp. Definitely medium to medium full bodied. At 8.6%, I would expect that. Getting some, same thing with the malt. Let me stick with the malt for a second. Even more pronounced, kind of biscuit top, challah bread, crust. I live here on Long Island. Challah bread is very popular. We eat it a lot. It kind of gives you that, Maillard, baking, fresh bread, maybe cooked a little bit on the higher end of things, type of flavor. But this is kind of what I'm getting in this beer. You do get the fruit still. I still get kind of that iced tea. There's a little residual sweetness. I think what's happening, because it's a high alcoholic strength beer, the residual sweetness with that challah bread is kind of giving me like that iced tea kind of flavor on the palate. There is definitely some pronounced bitterness here, which I would expect for a double, but not like lip puckering. It's 8.6, but I think it's drinking a little lower like that, like a 6%, because I'm not getting that warmth. I usually get that alcoholic warmth around 7.5 to 8%. And I'm not getting it. So that's actually a good thing for this, because sometimes that can get solventy and like almost to a point of astringency, which you don't get with this, which is pretty nice. So again, it's powerful beer, but it's to me, it's drinking with the carbonation. That is kind of, it feels like it's drinking lighter than that. On the aftertaste, again, you're left with the malt. You get a little bit of that. There's a little bit of pine, I got like a spruce tips, that type of thing on the palate. And you are getting a slight bit of grapefruit also. Like that's where the citrus, I think, component is. So it's kind of a medley between the citrus, the malt of the challah bread. And it's actually, even though this is, believe it or not, it is I should say believe it or not, it definitely is a hop forward beer because it is a double IPA. But there is enough malt backbone to this, which I find appealing. A lot of IPAs are just so hop forward with no backbone, especially like New England IPAs and hazies. This is, to me, is drinking more like a doubled West Coast IPA. But I wouldn't argue with someone, American IPA. There is gray area, and even though I've rambled on about beer judge certification program, the beer style guidelines, there's no written law. The brewers have their discretion on where they want to go with this. But I think if you like West Coast IPAs, you'd find this phenomenal. If you like to be smacked in the face, which is strictly like orange juice, grape juice, or even, I should say, grapefruit juice, this doesn't have it. But that doesn't mean it's a knock to the beer. I think it's just more American IPA / West Coast IPA because there is some malt backbone, which I personally like more than just strict hops, fruit. Again, when I go back to the note and aroma, it's almost like if I closed my eyes and I had like a nice iced tea, a little sugar in there, and you're smelling it, even though we don't perceive, sweetness through the nose. I'm going to let the bitterness set in a little bit for a second here, but definitely a pronounced, maybe assertive bitterness. I don't know the IBU units on this. Again, the IBU units don't mean that much. It's just, you're balancing, since it is 8.6% alcohol, you want enough IBUs to kind of balance the sweetness of the malt. If this was just strictly 8.6% malt driven, it'd probably be cloyingly sweet. You want some of that bitterness. And this has a good amount of bitterness to go with a lot of fatty foods, grilled foods, things like that, to kind of cut through it, as well as even the carbonation, which is a little bit higher. Some of these IPAs that I've had recently doing this channel, sometimes the carbonation is so low and the mouthfeel is kind of thick and sludgy. This is drinking more like crisper, but very nice, guys. Again, one more. A little pine, yeah, definitely a little pine. Grapefruit. I don't get the melon, like I was saying, cantaloupe, honeydew on the nose before. I don't get it on the palate, which is, again, not a knock to the beer. But again, guys, very good. I'm always on again, off again with the grading system. I'm going to give this a good A minus. And I always hate using minus because it sounds like a negative connotation. If I had a range, I think overall drinkability of the beer, I would probably give it, a solid A. When I compare it to other beers, since there's so many out there, I always feel like I got to just be just slightly below like overall enjoyability, drinkability grade. Because I just always feel like, oh, that one, maybe Pliny the Elder or whatever, like another one that's more like West Coast IPA. I couldn't argue. Someone said, well, that one's slightly better. Well, listen, no one's going to argue. It is subjective, but this is a solid, good A beer. I really don't get anything off flavored. It's brewed right down the street from me, so I know it's fresh. I don't even have to worry about when the crowler was made. It would be made very fresh. But I think if you like your IPAs with little malt, okay, you'll really enjoy this beer. I think they have made hazies over there and other fruits, so I definitely would check them out, Moriches Brewing Company. This one particularly is very good. Show it to you one more time on camera, even though I'm probably going to have it popping over my shoulder. So anyway, guys, the beer dissection today was whatever Hoppins, 8.6% from Moriches Brewing Company. Again, you've probably been flooded with my pictures. Quality beer. They brew, all their beers for the most part are brewed very well. If you don't like their beers, okay, I would put my reputation on this. If you don't like the beer, you just probably don't particularly like the style of the beer, because they do brew a lot of different styles. But trust me, there's a good chance that it's brewed well. It's just the fact that maybe you just don't like maybe a Dunkelweizen or other thing. But they brew a lot of different styles. That's what's great about them. You look at their board, you know, they don't really repeat themselves too often. They're not like going to have 10 IPAs up there. They usually have many different styles. So I would definitely recommend this one. And like most of the beers I think I've had from them that I've recommended. So last time, guys, good solid A beer. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this Crowler today. It is an 8.6, so you do want to probably drink this a little bit slower. It's kind of whatever Hoppins. I classify it as more, leaning more towards West Coast IPA as a double with the alcoholic strength and the pronounced bitterness, which is great. Don't look for a New England IPA juice bomb from this beer. Okay, even though there are some fruit components to it, and pine and melon on the aroma and things like that. Excellent beer. So until the next beer dissection, guys, have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.